So looking at this, we have quite a few words. Let's look at it. We have 4 basic operations in math. I'm going to make this a little bit brighter. Wait, I just froze it. There we go. So, can everybody see that okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. Let me see if I can change this color mode really fast. Okay, that looks way better. Okay, so addition's the first one, is the most basic one that we learned. What's another way to say addition that y'all know?
Add.
Plus. I heard add. Can we also say added to?
Yes.
Some. Got any more? How about increased by? Does that work?
Yes.
Huh? Not rise. That wouldn't work in this case because rise is used for a different phrase in algebra that we'll get to in the next 2 units, okay? Maybe not that one though. That'll confuse us a little bit. But you're close. How about combined? Does that work?
Does multiplication count? Because
So multiplication has its own section, right? So we can't put those together because this means addition, which means a plus, and this one means it's multiplying. So you can't say that because what's 2 plus 3?
5.
But what's 2 times 3?
5, 6.
You see how it would change? So that's why we can't try to group them together. They're both increasing the number for sure, but not at the same rate. Okay? How about together? Because don't they say all together? What about more than? Is there a special word attached to that? Than. So whatever goes to the front goes where? To the back. And whatever goes to the back goes where? To the front. How about total? Does that work? And finally, I'm going to add one that's commonly forgotten about because you don't really see it because it's not applicable to you yet. But your parents do it every day. Miss Lipsey does it at least once a month. Miss Davis does it at least once a month. We receive deposits. Now, what are deposits? It's how we get paid. So we're increasing our money because we get deposits directly into our bank account. So we can deposit. And that seems like more than enough words. Everybody good there?
Yes.
Let's look at subtraction. Can you give me some?
Less.
Less than. I heard some other ones. Decrease.
Subtract.
We can also put by next to that. Subtract. Let's add a word to that. Subtracted from, right? So subtracted from. What was it? Difference. That's a common one we see. So we have less than. What's another one? There's a common one that y'all are missing. Minus. We just saw that on bell work, didn't we?
Yes.
What about fewer than? Or just fewer, right? And the opposite of deposit, do you know the word?
Withdraw.
Withdraw. So that's enough for subtraction, right? Almost about the same as addition. What about multiplication? Times. multiplied by, right? Product. Not division, because that has its own thing, right? What about, how about double? Because what happens when you double a number? Times by 2. Can you give me another one? What about triple? What are you multiplying by then? So times 3. What about quadruple? What's that multiplying by? 4. Quad means 4. And what's another way to say double in a different word? Twice. And now here's one that I'm introducing to you that's pretty new. The word of. The word of is special because it's usually only used with fractions. So when you say half of a number, it's typically 1/2 times x, or 1/2 times a, b, or c of a like. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so from here, let's look at division. What do y'all think?
Less.
Not for division.
Some.
Not for division. Quotient is a good one. That's something I introduced to you last week. You know another one?
Product.
Not product, because that's multiplication, right?
Less.
Not less. What was it?
Divided by.
Divided by or divided equally, right? I'm going to put divided equally. I'm going to put by in parentheses there. I feel like Miss Lipsey going to have to help out with this one. What do you think? Because this one we're not used to seeing a lot, right? So let me help out. The word per. Because that means that you're breaking it up. Out of. Because you're separating things as well. The word ratio. Notice there's a lot of ofs here. Of is a constant for division as well. Again, fractions are also division placements. So, there's also percent. The reason why percents are quotients is because it's something out of a total. So, something out of 100. Broken up into. That's another one. That's the same thing as saying divided equally. We have the word half, which means I'm dividing by what? Half, you're dividing by 2. What about a third? I'm dividing by 3. Agreed. And how about a fourth? I'm dividing by 4. Perfect. And that goes on forever. You could say 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. All of those are division by the number that you're actually saying. Any questions there? Everybody good? So what are my switch words? I didn't call them switch words. I called them turnaround phrases. So I'm going to write that at the bottom. So what were my 2 turnaround words? Than and Than and not of.
More.
From. Look what I have underlined. Any questions there? How are we feeling? Feeling good? Feeling like we know more words? Let's look at our first example. It says writing expressions with addition or subtraction. So, it's just either one of these two, nothing else, just those two. 32 more than a number. What is my operational phrase I need to highlight? More than. A number always goes with X. So the question here is, what should go first? Why X? Thank you. That than on that more tells me to switch it, right? So what's in the back goes where? To the front, and what's in the front goes where? So what should come first? X, then plus, after that? Sorry if you're saying it, I couldn't hear you because of the air conditioner. It's not you, it's me. Any questions there? Next one. A number X less than 52. What's your operational phrase? Less than. Is that addition or subtraction? Subtraction. So, what should come first? How do we know? It's last, but there's a turnaround. If there's not a from or a than, we don't switch it. So what comes afterwards? Minus X.
Where you get the minus after less?
Where is less than located? In which operation group?
Subtraction.
But it also said writing expressions with which two operations?
Subtraction. Addition.
So it only gives you two choices. That's why. So it's knowing where it is and reading those directions. That tells you the only two that we're using. What about the difference of X and 1/2? So what's the operational phrase? What's the operational phrase that I'm pulling? Difference, which means? There we go. We're looking at what's actually there first, and then we're determining the operation. Does that make sense? So what would come first? X. Then minus 1/2, because what does difference mean? Subtract. Any questions there? Everybody good? This section make more sense? Awesome. Discussion. How do you write 6 less than Y? Why would it be that? Because than is that turnaround word, right? So that's what we're paying attention to. Meaning Y would have to come first, 6 would have to go last. How do you write 6 less Y?
6 minus Y.
6 minus Y. What makes those different? It does not have a than. So if there's no than or from, it stays the way it's written in the same order. Any questions there? And you already answered this back question. Why are they different? Why are these two different? Than does what? It flips, right? The expression. So I'm going to pause. Are there any questions for the top half of this? Make sure you check over and make sure you're not missing anything that we wrote up here, because all of these have an opportunity to pop up at any point. And it's not just in my class, it's also beyond my class as well. Any questions there? Everybody good? All right, let's look at example number 2. It says writing expressions with multiplication or division. So these are the only choices we have there, Jordan. Those are the only two. So which means only focus on the last two columns at the top. 8 times the number. What's the operational phrase I need to look at? Times. What operation is times? Multiplication. So what needs to come first? 8. And then what comes behind it? Can I just write it like that though?
No.
I sure can. Because when they're holding hands, they are multiplying. This is how you're going to see multiplication from now on, unless I explicitly tell you to put the dot. Does that make sense? So this still means 8 times x, but this is how we write it, because 8 is a coefficient of x. Any questions there? Looking at this, the quotient of a number x and 5. The quotient of a number x and 5. What's my operational phrase I'm looking at? Quotient of, right? What does quotient mean? Divide. So how would I rewrite this? What was it? X divided by 5, because what came first? X. So that has to go at the top. Any questions there? Okay. Looking at this one. The product of a number x and 22. The product of a number x and 22. What's my operational phrase? The product of, right? What does product of mean? Multiplication. So how would I write this? What would come first? Then times 22, right? So I told you, this can be written this way. But the way you're going to see it written is actually like this. And the reason why it works is because we're going to put this little parentheses down here. And we're going to write multiplication is commutative. That means I can change the position and it still means the same thing. Because what is 3 times 2? But what is 2 times 3? Aren't they the same thing? So did the position change anything? No. So this is the most common way you'll see it written. That's how most of your answers will be written, is in this form right here. Even though the order says differently, that's only with multiplication. Please make sure you know that, okay? Put a star next to this, put an asterisk. This one is special. So I put watch out. Any questions there? Everybody still feeling good? Feeling better about translating now? 3 divided by a number x. 3 divided by a number x. What's my operational phrase? Divided by. And what operation is that? Division. So, what would come first? 3. And then? So the division bar. And then? There we go. You will very rarely see the little division symbol because we don't use that. We use the fraction bar. That's what we use, okay? Any questions here? How are we feeling about that? We ready to mix them up a little bit? All right, let's do it. Example number 3. This has multiple operations. So this has more than just our little bit. This has all of them in there. So if I'm looking at this, multiple operations, the first one says 3 less than the product of 4 and x. 3 less than the product of 4 and x. So what are my operational phrases, or well, phrase or phrases in here? Less than product of. So what should come first?
3.
Not quite. What tells me 3 doesn't go first? Less than. That than tells me that 3 goes to the back. Does that make sense? Let me tell you a trick. If you see of come after an operation, you need to look for an and. That tells you where it goes. Does that make sense? What operation does product mean? So, how would I write the product of 4 and x? Look at how I wrote the product right here. So it'd be 4x. What does less mean? Minus what? That's the answer. Everybody good? You see where I'm pulling everything from? So, quotient of x and 3 plus 5. The quotient of x and 3 plus 5. So, what's my operational phrases there? Quotient of. Is that my only one? Plus, right? So, what's actually getting the quotient? What two pieces? X and. Because didn't I say when you see an of, find the and? So it's between these two. So how do I write that as a quotient? Not quite. Quotient means what operation? Division, right? It's dividing. So what would need to go first? X. Then. X. What was that? I heard somebody over there in the corner. Did you say that, Kinley? X and then division bar. What goes underneath it? 3. So that's the quotient, right, of that piece. So what needs to come after this? What are we missing? Plus. So that's addition, 5. And that's how you translate it. Are there any questions on this? Any questions on how we just did this? Yes, ma'am?
Ms. Lipsey, how do you know the 3 doesn't go above the x?
Because it says the and, so you have to put it in the order in which it's written. So when it says quotient of, you find the and, that's where your division bar goes, so whatever goes first goes at the top. That's a great question. Yes.
Does it matter like what goes first?
Yes, it always matters because you're translating. That's like if I were to ask somebody a question and then they didn't speak English and I tried to jumble it up in Spanish or something. The order matters, especially in how you're portraying something. Okay? So any translation from language to language, the order matters. So if it says quotient of, that means look for your and. Whatever's at the front of the and, which is x, goes at the top. And 3, that means, quote, division bar, 3. Make sense? The only time where I'd switch the position is if I see which two words? Than or from. Do we see either one of those in this one? So I don't have to switch anything. But did you notice how I switched it in this one? Because which word was present? So what was at the front went where? And whatever was in the back went to the... Make sense? Does that answer your question a little bit better, Jordan?
Oh, yes.
Good deal. 6 plus half of x. 6 plus half of x. So what are your operational phrases here? Plus and half of, right? So what would need to come first? 6. Because do we see than or from anywhere? So we write it in order in which we see it. What comes after the 6? Plus. What comes after that? Not quite. How do you write half? 1 over 2. And then x. Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. You also can write that as well. That is also true. That's a more advanced way of seeing it. So you're actually seeing, if you see it that way, you'll understand it better in Algebra 1. So great job on that question. She was asking, could she put just x over 2, which is also true. But usually in this class, since it's a more remediated look at everything, I try to keep everything as separate as possible. But if you see it better that way, write it that way. I'll still count it. Looking at this one, any more questions on this before I move on? Okay, 9 more than 2 times x. 9 more than 2 times x. So what do I need to do here? So did I highlight key pieces? What's important? More than, and then? And then now you tell me all your business. What's going on? Keeksy, you better wake up over there. You about to get this controller thrown over there. If you sleepy, what do you need to grab? The Terry and you too. A clipboard. No, we ain't gonna slap nobody. We don't do that up in here. Go grab a clipboard, gentlemen. That way you're awake. I don't want you to miss nothing. Go on now. Grab your clipboard. They're right over there. Find one that matches your outfit. No, you ain't. Pull your arms out your jacket, and then I'll believe you a little bit more. Thank you, Terry. You decide how long you stand up, because it's depending on how sleepy you are. Make sure you grab your paper so you can write. So, what's important to make note of here? 9 goes to the back. Why? It says more than, so we know it has to be 9 at the back. So what goes in the front? 2. What goes behind that? X, because it says what word? Times. And then what goes between these two? Plus, because it says more than. Any questions there? Everybody good? Are the translations making sense? All right, let's flip it on over. Let's look at expressions with groups. Now, groups meaning parentheses, okay? You saw me use some parentheses over there, but they weren't in the same context. If I'm looking at this one, when it says with groups, the product of 4 and the sum of x and 5. The product of 4 and the sum of x and 5. When I'm looking at this, I'm still going to do the exact same steps. I'm going to mark the product of, and I'm going to mark the sum of. The issue here is with this one, this of right here goes to this and this of right here goes to this and. The product of 4, meaning, what am I doing with this 4? What operation? Not adding. Multiplication. I'm multiplying 4 to this entire thing, because after the and, it's a whole other piece. So, when I write this in, the 4 has to come first, because there's no from or than. And then parentheses. What goes on the inside of the parentheses? X plus 5. That's what makes this one different than the last section. The last section was just a regular of and when there was an operation directly there. But now this is an operation of an operation. Does that make sense? It's back to back, so it's not going to be written the same, okay? It's of an operation, okay? So let's look at this one. The quotient of 8 and the difference in 4 and x. So what am I highlighting? The quotient of, at the beginning, and the difference of. So how would I write this? What would come first? 8. And then parentheses, because it's the quotient of the difference. But should it be 8 like this? Are we multiplying or dividing? Dividing. So is this correct? Not quite. Let's try that again. I agree with the 8, but what needs to happen to the 8? It's a division bar. And what goes at the bottom? 4 minus x. And that's the answer. This one, you can still put this bottom part in parentheses if you like, but since it's already separated out, you don't have to put it in parentheses. The division bar actually acts as the parentheses for you in this case. Any questions there? We feeling good? Feeling like we can do it? Let's look at this one. 8 times the difference of x and 2. 8 times the difference of x and 2. So what am I highlighting? Times difference of. So what needs to come first? 8 parentheses, because times actually means multiplication, right? So what would come inside of the parentheses? X minus 2. Any questions there? Everybody good? Okay. Look at the last one up here. 9 divided by the sum of 6 and x. 9 divided by the sum of 6 and x. So, what needs to be highlighted? Divided by and sum of, right? So, what needs to come first? 9. Fraction bar, because it says divided by. Absolutely agree. Any questions there? Look through this. Look through these examples. See if you have any last minute questions for me, because we're going to do a daily grade, right? So, look through really quick. See if you have anything that you need to ask about. See if you have anything you don't understand before I assign this, okay? Because I don't want somebody coming at me crazy. Okay? Okay, these are the problems I want you to do, and I'm going to have them highlighted up here, okay? We'll circle. I want you to do 1, 2, 5, 6, and 11. I want you to do 1, 2, 5, 6, and 11. Make sure you circle these so you know which ones, because I keep marking people's stuff off because they are marking the wrong ones, okay? So I don't want you to do that. I'm going to freeze it so you have it. Use your notes to answer these questions. When you finish, bring it to me. Yes, ma'am. You need to do your daily grade first. Try to get it knocked out. That way I have it. Huh? Baby, I don't control that. I done explained that first day. Why do you think I got on a sweater? Really? It's during the summer, Jordan. If I could control it, I would. Just imagine, it could be worse. It could be hot in here. I'll take this over that any day, because I could put on a sweater. I don't like when I'm hot either. Black hair and heat don't match. I restarted it. There we go. All right. Talking about number 1. 10 less than x. 10 less than x.
And a pleasant good morning to you, conquistadors. At this time, we're going to call for those still needing a laptop, and they're prepared.
Did everybody get theirs in here? I think everybody did.
Kept your laptop over the summer.
You get yours?
And rechecked it out with us.
You got it Friday?
Well, this morning. So this is anyone, all of
Okay,
one call.
then go and go.
If you are second block vote tech, I want you to come to the
Hang on, let me double check that
line.
email.
I get in trouble, but I want you to go ahead to the
Before I send you that way.
so that we can get you through before you have to get on the bus. And so at this time, to the multipurpose room, everyone that needs a laptop and or needs to recheck theirs in, okay? Thank you.
Okay, go Satarian. Put your stuff down up here. Satarian, bring your stuff back up here. That way you don't forget it at the back desk. Grab your pencil too, baby. Thank you, Jordan. Just set your stuff on your desk. Do you have your money on you? Go and get it, baby. Go. You know where the multi-purpose room is? Okay, so you know where the cafeteria and the library are? That hallway that leads to the gym? Go straight down there. It's the first door on your left when you go straight down. All right, 10 less than x. So what's the important phrase here to make note of? Less than. What operation is that? Addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division? Subtraction. So what should come first? Why should x come first? Because it says than, right? So what comes after that x? Any questions there? If you wrote it backwards, I still gave you credit. That's what 0.5 is. So if this was any other like situation, most teachers would mark off the whole thing. That's what partial credit means to me. So if you do that on your quizzes and on your tests, and you put it in the basket, I will give you partial credit. Okay? So just keep that in mind. Looking at number 2, 5 more than D. 5 more than D. What's the operational phrase I need to mark? More than. So what needs to come first? Because what word? So D what? Plus 5. Again, if you flip-flopped it, I still gave you credit. Any questions on those top 2? Number 5, x multiplied by 6. X multiplied by 6. What's the important phrase to mark here? Multiply by, right? So what needs to come first? So, is this a right way to write it?
Yeah.
What's another right way to write this one? X times 6, right? Which one's going to be used more, the first one or the second one? The first one. If you put this one, I still gave you credit, okay? Because you still answered the question correctly. Any questions there? The only ones I didn't give credit to is if you put a plus sign there, okay? Because it says multiplied. So it can't be plus, it has to be times, okay? Some people wrote both, and I was really happy with that too, because you understood the equivalency between it. Any questions there? All right, look at number 6. A number t divided by 3. A number t divided by 3. What is the key operational phrase here? Divided by, right? So what needs to come first? T. Then? Divided by? You write exactly what you read, okay? You write exactly what you read. Some people flip-flopped it, so I couldn't give credit for that because you completely did something that you weren't supposed to do. But if I saw that you put the little division sign, I still gave you credit. So some people put the little line with the 2 dots in between them. It still meant the same thing. But try to do this if you can. And finally, number 11. 3 plus the product of 2 and h. 3 plus the product of 2 and h. What is important to mark here? Plus and product of. So what needs to come first? 3. What comes behind 3? Plus. Then. We don't need parentheses here, right? Because it's not of an actual operation. It's just plus and then this of that, right? So parentheses aren't needed here. So what would come next? Just 2h. If you wrote 2 times h with a little dot, I still gave you credit. So you are okay. But remember, this is the most common way we will see it written. Any questions here? How do we feel? Good? You know what your job is to do, correct? What am I going to tell you need to do? Finish the rest of these practice problems. Should you wait till Friday? Should you wait till Thursday? If it's this easy and you just learned it today, should you try to get it done today? Yes, that way in the morning you can ask me questions if you need them. That way if you need to come by during third block and have questions, I can answer them. That way when we start up tutoring next week, we're finalizing the dates right now for us to be able to do it during the week. And most people voted to keep it in the morning time, so that's what we're trying to do. So that way during my plan, like my block that y'all are in here sitting with me for like 30 minutes at the beginning of the day, you can go to tutoring over there instead if you need it, if you want it. So if you have this, you have everything you need for tutoring, okay? So, any questions here? Any at all? Okay, I'm going to get y'all packed up earlier today because I think snack carts are running and I want y'all to be able to grab things off the snack cart and all that good stuff. Okay, do me a favor, pack up.